Hey friends, Christina here from the Raspberry Pi Foundation team. Thank you so much for joining us this week for Digital Making at Home. We are going into our second week of our theme of Look After Yourself. And this week we are going to make a serene scene in Scratch, basically creating a peaceful space where we can go and relax or de-stress. So let's jump right into the project. All right, so I'm here at our projects page, projects.raspberrypi.org, and this is our library of over 200 projects that you can try. We are going to be doing a specific project, and I'll show you the short link right now, rpf.io/dm-serene-scene. This is going to take us to our Scratch project that we'll be doing. So if you're new to our projects, they all have a similar format. We've got our title. You'll see what we'll be doing, hardware or software or both in the top left. There's also a print icon if you want to print the project. Then over here in the top right is a valuable tool. You can change the language. So I have it as English, but feel free to change it to a language that is most comfortable for you. There's lots of languages here. Now, over here on the left, we have our table of contents. So this shows us the steps that we are going to be doing to complete this project. And then here we always have a preview. So we're actually going to see the preview now. Maybe hearing like the rain in the background. So we're going to be using variables to create this project here, which we can adjust. So you see the flowers change colors. I can change the size of the tree. I can also make this light or dark. So we are going to be creating this scene in Scratch. All right, so what we're going to need, you just need a computer that can run the internet so you can go on Scratch. What we're going to be learning is we're going to be using forever loops and variables. I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to go ahead and go into our first step. We're going to grow the tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the starter project. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be showing my screen with Scratch, but I'm going to be having this page on a separate screen so I can follow along. So whatever works for you, maybe you have me up on one screen and you have the project up, or maybe you're just following along today and you're going to code later. So I'm going to jump into our starter project. All right, so we're on our starter project. We're in Scratch, and a starter project just already has some preloaded sprites and a backdrop. So you see here we have 3 sprites, our tree, our grasshopper, and flowers, and then we have our backdrop. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by coding the tree. We're going to make the tree be able to control how it changes in size. So I'm going to click on the tree, make sure this sprite is highlighted. I'm going to go ahead. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a variable. So we're going to go here over to the far left. We're going to click on the orange variables, and we are going to make a variable. We're going to call it tree. So now we have a variable, and you'll see that we've got some blocks for this variable. You'll also see that it's now visible on the stage. We have it here. And the way we're going to control our variable is we're going to use a slider. So I'm going to go over here to the stage. I'm going to right click on where I see the variable, and I'm going to change this to slider. Because what I want to do is I want to code this so that when I move this slider, it's going to change the size of my tree. So now we need to add some blocks of code. So we're going to go ahead to events, and we are going to get when the green flag is clicked. We're also going to get a forever loop, and we are going to get a size block. So set size to 100%, that block. We're going to pull those over. What I like to do is I like to pull all my blocks over first, and then I connect them together. So now that we've got those over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my variable. So I made this tree variable. So now I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to add it here to my size block. So now let's connect these all together. So we've got our blocks connected with me, which means that we are ready to run our program. So let's go ahead and click on the green flag. And okay, so our tree disappeared. The reason our tree disappeared is because our code is working. And our code is working because we see here that we have it set to 0. So we want to change the size of our tree. Let's see what happened. Okay, all right, so our code is working. I'm using the slider and it's changing the size of our tree. Awesome. Now, what I can also do is I can right click again and I can change the slider range. So I can change the range of numbers. Right now it's from 0 to 100. So what I'll probably do, I'll change this probably to 50 to 300. All right, so now we're at 100 and then I can even make my tree even bigger. Okay, so awesome. We have coded our tree. So the next thing we are going to do, and also make sure it's important to remember to save your project. So I just jumped into a Scratch page. As you saw, like I'm not logged in, so you don't need to log in to code in Scratch. But if you do want to save it, make sure that you sign in, check with your parent or guardian that you can create a login, sign in, and then you can save your project. So moving along into the next step is we are going to color the flowers. So we were just coding our tree. Now I'm going to move to the flowers. So I'm going to click here on the flowers. That's important because that's where we want to be putting the code. Now you'll see you're like, oh no, the code's gone. It's not gone. If I click on the tree, that's where that code is. That code is associated with our tree. We're now going to code with our flowers. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to make a variable. We're going to call it, can you guess? Flowers. So we're going to call it flowers. So now, once again, we see that we're doing a lot of sort of repeated actions, which is great because it's going to help you practice how to use variables with Scratch. So we just made the tree variable earlier. Now we made this flower variable. Does anyone remember how we're going to change flowers? We want to change it to a slider again. You remember? Okay. We want to right click it. So I'm going to right click on flowers and I'm going to make this a slider. And this time, instead of changing the size, I actually want to change the colors of the flowers. So what we're going to do is we're going to have some similar blocks. We're going to get the events block. We're going to use when the green flag is clicked. We're also going to use another forever loop. And then this time we are going to get a looks block. See if you can find it before me. Ah, there it is. So it actually is a color block. So one of the looks blocks, and we're going to use the color blocks. I'm going to pull this over. Now, similarly, what I'm going to do is instead of having this number here, I'm going to use the variable I just made. So I'm going to go back to flowers, pull that in, and add that to my block. So now my blocks are ready to be combined. So I'm going to put flower, and I'm going to put color. And so let's see what happens. So you see the colors are changing with my flowers. And what's neat here is since this is a variable for color, we can actually change our number, our slider range. I'm going to actually change this to -100 because that didn't really make sense for the size of the tree. Once the tree is at 0, it's 0. So now I'm going to have our color range be negative numbers. So we've got lots of different colors we can choose from, which is really neat. So you can really personalize what your serene scene looks like. So we've got our colors, we've got our tree. Now we are going to add some more elements to the scene. So I'm going to our fourth step in the project, which is set the scene. So we're going to actually code the stage. So we've added code to 2 sprites, and now we're going to add code to the stage, so to the backdrop. So I'm going to click here on the stage. So you see how that is now highlighted, which means I'm going to be adding code. There's no code there yet, right? We had our code, the flowers is still there, our code with the tree is still there, but now we're going to add some code to the backdrop. So we're going to add 2 pieces of code. We're going to add some sound and we're going to add some lighting effects. So let's go ahead, we're going to make a variable. We're going to call this variable light. All right. And then just as before, we're going to use this variable to change what the backdrop looks like. So we changed what the flowers look like, we changed what the tree looked like. So similarly, we're going to change this variable, which is on the stage. We're going to change that to a slider. All right. And then we are going to add in similar blocks. So you might already be ahead of me. You're jumping in. You remember what blocks we did before. We're going to add in a green flag block. You're going to add in a forever loop. There you are. And then I'm going to add in a looks block, and I'm going to get the set color block. Sorry if you can hear the siren in the background. So we are going to do brightness. This is why I'm creating a serene scene to relax me when I hear the sirens. Okay, now let's go ahead. We can connect them all together. So I'm going to add forever. I'm going to set brightness. Now let's run our code. It's not working. Oh, okay, I know why. Do you know why? What do I need to do? I need to go back to variables and I need to add in my light variable. So I'm going to set my brightness. I have to set it to light. Because right, it was set to 0, but I want it to set to the number that I'm putting on the slider. So now let's see here. Ooh, okay, interesting. Excellent, okay. So now we've adjusted so we can see that it's going to change brightness, but that 100 is like really intense. That's not where we want it to be. So I'm going to change my slider range. I'm going to have it, what does the project recommend? Okay, the project recommends -40 and have the maximum value be 40. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so if I go up to -4, it's really bright. It's like super sunshiny day. If I go to -40, that's dark. Okay, so it's like it's getting darker in the day. So I can create a scene. Ooh, I like that one. I like having a big tree. It makes me think like I could sit under it, read a book, relax. Okay. All right, so we have coded our backdrop, we've coded our tree, we've coded our flowers. So we're really creating the scene. Something, to be honest, that I'm thinking about is, I love this project, but a really relaxing scene for me is the ocean and water. So I'm probably gonna do this project again, but I'm gonna do it with creating a backdrop with probably like an underwater scene and fish and have like bubble sounds. I'm really excited. I've got ideas in my mind. All right, so next I mentioned we were gonna change the light, but we're also gonna add in some sound. So we are going to add a sound to our project. So you do that, if you're new to sounds, this is exciting. You see up here at the top, we've got 3 tabs, code, backdrop, sounds. So I'm gonna go and click on sounds, and I'm going to add a sound here at the bottom left. I'm gonna choose a sound, and I am going to add in rain, and I love rain sounds. I love thunderstorms. So I'm gonna go ahead and press that. Okay, so we've got some rain sounds coming in, which is very nice, which I love. Now we are going to add a variable. Can you guess what it's called? Did you guess rain? Nice. Okay, rain. So now we've got a rain variable. Change it to a slider. And I really like this project because it's helping me to learn and as I'm repeating these actions. And that's a lot of what coding is. A lot of it is repetition as you do some of the same programming, using some of the same code over and over and over again. So now we're getting really good at variables. We're getting really good at using sliders with our variables. So next what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some code for our rain sound. So the first piece of code, we're going to add a code that's going to make the rain play, and then we're going to add code where we can control the volume. So first, let's just get the rain sound playing. So we need an events block. We're going to do when clicked. We need a forever loop, and we need a sound block. So we're going to play the sound rain. Okay. So this is going to play rain. Now I want to control the volume of it. So I'm going to add in another events block. And actually I'll show you a trick which can help. So I'm going to add a lot of the same code. So I'm going to go ahead, I can right click here and duplicate this. And what I'm going to change is I'm going to change this block here And what I need is a volume block, which I'm going to get from sound. And we are going to grab the set volume block. Remember, I messed up, or I made a mistake last time, so I'm remembering this time. And that's what code is. Like, you make mistakes, then you remember them for the next time. I'm going to grab the rain block, or the rain variable, and I'm going to put that here in my block. Okay, so now let's run our code. So my rain is on 0, so I can't hear anything, but I should. Oh, that makes me really happy. Let me turn that down. So I love rain. Something I do a lot actually is I'll play rain sounds. Like, I'll find rain sounds on like YouTube, and then I'll play like piano music, and that'll be my background when I'm doing work. And that's important. It's really helpful to create a space that's relaxing and calming for you. Maybe it's when you're doing your homework or you're reading. So I'm excited about this scene, to have this in like the background and control the rain sounds. Okay, now last thing we are going to add is we're going to add some fauna. So we're going to add some code for this grasshopper. So we're going to have our grasshopper move from left to right. I'm going to make this a little brighter so we can see it. Okay, so we've got our grasshopper here. So right now, remember, I'm coding in this stage, so I need to move. I'm going to click on the grasshopper. Now my grasshopper is highlighted in blue, and that is where I'm adding code. So we're going to go to our events block, and we are going to have our grasshopper. We need motion block. So we need a rotation block. Let me see if I see it. There we go. Set rotation style left to right, because we're going to get our grasshopper just to go from left to right. And then we're actually going to make it look like it's behind like the tree and the flowers. So to do that, I'm going to pick here it goes, have this block, which is with the images, you have like layers, right? So imagine like if you're in line and you have like your friend behind you and your other friend behind you. So we're going to we have got the tree, we've got the flowers, we're going to put the grasshopper behind those. So we're going to send the grasshopper to be the back layer. So you'll see here when I move the grasshopper, actually it might not run yet. Oh yeah, it's not going to run because it's not connected. So here we go. If I run this code, now we should see the grasshopper. Maybe not. Give me a second, let's figure it out. So we're going to set rotation style. And then we actually need to make some steps for our grasshopper. So let's grab a forever loop. And we're going to get motion, move 5 steps. The next costume. So purple, we're going to get a next costume, and then a if on edge bounce. And that's in our motion. That's right there at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to put these. So I'm going to change this to 5. That's what the project recommends. And then next costume, and then if on edge bounce. So let's see what happens. Okay. It's going behind our tree, which is great. And then it bounces and switches. So awesome. This is great. So we've got a grasshopper definitely moving fast like grasshoppers do. Now, if you want, you can add in a variable for the grasshopper so you can control the speed of the grasshopper. So let's go ahead. We can do that now. And as we've done, we're going to go to make a variable. We're going to call it grasshopper. And then similarly, we're going to switch this to slider. And what's neat about these two is that you can move these. So I'm going to go ahead, I can move grasshopper over here, flowers over here. So you can adjust them so that works for you. Now we are going to add a weight block. And let me see, okay, weight. And we're going to change this to grasshopper. Okay, so something to note now is we have our range. So we have our range up here, which goes from 0 to 100, okay? When you think about that, that means we're saying, okay, we want this code and we want us to wait 0 seconds or 1 second or 2 seconds. So it's really a lot of time when you think about it. So what'll probably, let's see what happens. Yeah, so our Grasshopper with 0 seconds is going pretty good. At 12 seconds, that starts to get really slow. So we actually want to change what that range is. And so we don't want it to be negative, but we need it to be less than 1. So we need it to be really fast. So there's 2 ways we can do that. You can either, let me right click this. Okay, slider, I want to keep the slider. Right click this. So we want to think about time. So let's say if we think about half a second, that would be 0.5. And then we could have our max value be 1, or it could actually be 2, right? If we're thinking about time. So we can think about how to control the Grasshopper. You're seeing here we have it going every 0.67 seconds. We can also change that to make that even smaller. We'd have to be 0.05. Thinking about how fast we want our Grasshopper to go versus how slow. So that's 0.05 seconds as our variable. Something you could also do, oh, I don't know how I got on tree, let's go back to Grasshopper, is if we wanted to keep this is a little bit of math, if you wanted to keep this from 1 to 100, what you could do is you could actually use an operator block. And where's our operator block? Which one do I want? Oh, I want the division one. Because then what that'll do is instead we can have the Grasshopper, we can create that time that I had just created, but we can have it by using and multiplying the Grasshopper variable by a number smaller than 1. And we can do that by using this block here. So I can actually put in Grasshopper. And what I can do is I can, I need to fit in, and have this be 100. So then when we have the Grasshopper range and we have it from 1 to 100, then what we're doing is we're saying, okay, 1 divided by 100. So we're saying 1/100th of a second is now our range. Oh, sorry, it's now our amount of time. So that's one way. You could do it either, you can use decimals like I did, or what we're doing here is a fraction. So I'm saying I want the Grasshopper to be going 1/100th of a second. Or we can move it up here and have it be 51/100ths of a second. Or 50/100ths of a second. So 1/2. So that's half a second. So some neat math that you can be doing there. And lastly, when we go back to the project page, so we've actually, let's just pause for a second. We just created a very serene scene. Congratulations, it looks fantastic. And we've got rain, we've got flowers that change colors. So if we go back to the project page, so look here, we were just on this with the grasshoppers. Now you can think about adding a dragonfly. That's a challenge here. There's also suggestions for sharing your project. So definitely something to think about. What do you want to add to make this scene a really relaxing and stress-free space for you? So hopping back in here, like I mentioned, I love the water, I love the ocean, and I'll probably make a project that'll have like some sea creatures and water and wave sounds. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll definitely share that project. And if you make your project, feel free to share it with us. We love to see what you all create. You can go to rpf.io/home and you can show us what you've coded this week or past weeks. You can also always check out our past projects. We love to see what you create. So send us any questions, share your projects, and I can't wait to see what you make this week.